Standing alone on the River Nile Delta, the farmers of ancient Egypt could only look up to the sky in fear. Their fields, their livestock had been taken from them, washed away as the banks of the Nile flooded, leaving them with nothing, not a patch of workable land. Had the gods admonished them? Had they been taken from for not giving enough? Pleasing the gods, ensuring a way to the afterlife, there was nothing more important in ancient Egypt. Yet, opportunity arrived. Talk had spread of a grand construction in Giza, the likes of which had never been seen before. A building would be made that would touch the very sky and portal to the heavens. It would be built taller than any building seen, to please the gods, honor the pharaoh, and ensure his passage to the afterlife. This building would take years to build. It would cost lives and would take tens upon tens of thousands to even make possible. Welcome to History on Fleek. Today we look at the unspeakable price of building the Great Pyramids of Egypt. Standing to this day, a wonder of the world in all its impossible splendor. You may have one question: why? Why the pyramids? Or why pyramids? What inspired the Egyptians to go to extraordinary lengths of constructing these remarkable structures? Some would tell you in a heartbeat it was for the pharaohs, which is true. But there's a little more to it than that. The pyramids were very much built as tombs for the pharaohs, but with a much greater vision in mind. In ancient Egyptian culture, death was not the end, but merely the beginning of another journey. If the pyramids were tombs, they were the most remarkable and bespoke tombs ever built, especially designed for the pharaohs to be at one with the gods and ensure their passage to the afterlife. The entire triangular design was for pleasing the gods. Egyptians believed the pointed shape of the pyramid splaying down to its wide base was representative of the sun's rays. The capstone of the pyramid, the pyramidion, was representative of the sun itself. This was embodiment and tribute to the sun god Ra, and the deceased pharaoh could not be brought any closer to him. Building the pyramids was an undertaking of a nearly impossible task, yet keeping the pharaohs closer to the gods was non-negotiable. There are some 118 identified pyramids from antiquity, the smallest standing at 43 meters high, the tallest at 3 times that height. Such endeavors took a mammoth effort. The pyramids of Giza give us the best insight into exactly what it took. The Great Pyramid has been written to have required a workforce of 400,000 men working 3-month shifts, 100,000 workers at a time. The build took 20 years. However, retrospective examination of the tombs tells us the workforce was more likely around 10,000 men, and the build took 30 years. Without a doubt, this was hard labor for the workers constructing the pyramids. Involving huge amounts of physical demand and increasingly great heights, the work was frankly perilous. Any worker on the pyramids risked being crushed, falling to death, or a catastrophic injury. Excavation of worker skeletons shows extensive signs of lower vertebrae damage and arthritis. These were people who worked beyond their health. Yet, this leaves one important question in many minds: were these people slaves? Though this may come as a surprise to many, the pyramids of Egypt were not constructed by slaves. Throughout history, the claim has been made, including by prime ministers no less, that the pyramids were constructed by slaves. However, this has come to be debunked. This isn't to dismiss the presence of slaves within the large workforce, but they were by no means the making of it. Remarkably, much of the workforce came together in an uncanny mix of catastrophe and timing. Egyptologists have come to the consensus that the majority were farmers looking to work when the Nile flooded their lands, leaving them with no work. Not only were the pyramids not built by slaves, but in the majority, many were skilled craftsmen. The conscripts for the build included masons, carpenters, and metalworkers. The minority would have been forced into labor, be they prisoners or slaves. All were overseen by a hierarchy of officials assigned by the pharaoh, who would manage the 3-month shifts of a thousands-strong workforce. For clarity, excavation around the pyramids in the centuries since has uncovered more about the workforce. Many builders would have come from poor families throughout the kingdom and were clearly a highly respected force of labor. Those who died in construction were buried as close to the tombs of the pyramids as possible. This would have been the highest honor. It would have been an effort to bring these workers as close to the afterlife as they could possibly be. Any Egyptologist would tell you, no slave would be buried in such respect and honor. Built for the pharaoh Khufu, the largest and oldest pyramid found in Egypt is the Great Pyramid of Giza. It has the rare distinction of being recognized as one of the 7 wonders of the world and is the oldest of all 7. For over 3,800 years, it was the tallest man-made structure on the planet, built to a remarkable 481 feet in height. It is estimated to be made up of some 2.3 million blocks of stone. Adding to the incredible effort of construction, these were not uniform blocks. Differing in size and shape and hardly dressed, these blocks weighed around 80 tons each. It should come as no surprise that the greatest pyramid took some 3 decades to complete. Adding to its mystique is the detail in the construction. The 4 base points of the pyramid align with the 4 cardinal points. For a construction looking to please the gods, the great builders of Egypt could do no finer. Inside the pyramids are an array of beautiful artifacts and details, telling us even more about our ancestors of antiquity. The internal walls of tombs are a visual story of the pharaohs and their lives. Built within the pharaoh's lifetime, hieroglyphics on the walls inside detail the names of the laborers who put the grand tomb together. As has been well documented, riches, jewelry, and even furniture would be buried with the king to bring him lifetime comforts on his way to the afterlife. Courtiers, attendants, and family members who passed away after the pharaoh are buried close to him. Just beside the pyramids are entire subdivisions of tombs around the pyramids of Giza. Though it wasn't only treasures found in the pyramids and their incredible tombs. Curses have long been attributed to the tombs of pharaohs. The mummy's curse, as has been pop culturally known and spread throughout literature and entertainment. But what's the story? Well, way back when many were struggling to live hand to mouth and the courtiers and pharaohs had all the riches one could imagine, the appetite for robbery may have somewhat risen. This appetite was no doubt aided by the pharaohs and wealthiest being buried with all the finest wares and goods they owned. So, tomb raiding became a rather tempting prospect for the common folk of Egypt. In response, it was forbidden and outlawed. In fact, it was the lowest low any Egyptian could commit. Furthermore, it was believed anyone who dared touch a pharaoh's tomb was inviting a curse that could incur illness, bad fortune, or even death. The myth would survive right up to the 19th century with the discovery of Tutankhamun's mummy. Famously, Lord Carnarvon, who funded the exhumation, would die just 6 weeks later. Rumor exploded to life that a curse was inscribed inside the tomb, though one has never been found. The pyramids weren't only huge monuments and vessels to the pharaohs on their way to the afterlife. We know that the Great Pyramid of Giza, with its perfect astronomical alignment, was also used as a form of observatory. It was a place where astronomers and priests could observe all the above. Egyptians held the belief that all the dark surrounding the stars in the night was the physical gateway to heaven. One can only begin to imagine the wonder felt by the astronomers of ancient Egypt. Aside from tomb complexes and great observatories, the pyramids were also considered sacred places. Ceremonies of worship and rituals for the gods and pharaohs would take place there too. It's hard to quantify just how much the pyramids inspired later societies in architectural terms alone. In fairness, the ancient Egyptians were the first to use stone on such a grand scale, which would inspire all the epochs ahead. Yet, that distinct, remarkable visual impression the pyramids leave has been emulated right up to our modern day. The most famous of contemporary buildings inspired by the pyramids is inarguably the Louvre Museum in Paris, constructed as recently as 1988. The same architect, I.M. Pei, would repeat the design for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, USA, just 7 years later. Though, if you want to see a real tribute to the pyramids in modern architecture, look no further than the Nima-san Museum in Oda, Japan. Constructed in 1991, the series of pyramids that makes up the museum is a tribute to the workings of sand and time and, of course, the pyramids of Egypt themselves. Perhaps most poetically, the complex contains the world's largest hourglass ever constructed. And what better way to tip one's hat to the oldest wonder of the world? This is History on Fleek, and we'll see you next time.